Good morning and welcome back to Global Entertainment News TV. I am your host, Busola, and it is the time to take a look at what is making the headlines this morning in our newspaper review segment. Let's start with the punch. Countdown to 2027. Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. Countdown to 2027. Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. Moving on to next. Displaced Borno residents recount Boko Haram invasion. Displaced Borno residents recount Boko Haram invasion. To the next headline. World Bank dismisses Nigeria's single-digit inflation target. World Bank dismisses Nigeria's single-digit inflation target. To the next headline. How Abbas intervention stalled minorities leaders' impeachment. How Abbas intervention stalled minority leaders' impeachment. To the next one. Science Minister Naji resigns over alleged certificate forgery. Science Minister Naji resigns over alleged certificate forgery. Up to next. Police pensioners rally for protest after talks collapse. Police pensioners rally for protest after talks collapse. Moving on to next. Curtis kill 4 in Lagos, Ogun communities. Curtis kill 4 in Lagos, Ogun communities. To the next headline. Tinubu axes 2 National Assembly bills over policy clash. Tinubu axes 2 National Assembly bills over policy clash. That's it for the punch. You move to the nation. Beer industry seek job to tax stamp plan. Beer industry seek job to tax stamp plan. Up to next. Certificate scandal. Naji resigns ministerial position. Naji resigns ministerial position. Moving on to next. Scheduled flight begins at Ogun Gateway Airport. Scheduled flight begins at Ogun Gateway Airport. Up to next. Oyedele, 98% of workers to exempt from pay. 98% of workers to exempt from pay. Up to next. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Oshu Council Fund suit. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Oshu Council Fund suit. To next headline. Agemuche Umbu is acting chair as Yakubu bows out of INEC. Agemuche Umbu is acting chair as Yakubu bows out of INEC. To the next headline. Federal government to refinance expenses debt portfolios, says Edo. Federal government to refinance expensive debt portfolios, says Edo. To the next one. Federal government lawmaker promise better deals for Nigerians. Federal lawmakers promise better deals for Nigeria. To the next headline. Natasha resumes at plenary. Natasha resumes at plenary. To the next one. FCCPC withdraws criminal charge against multi-choice chairman, says MD. FCCPC withdraws criminal charge against multi-choice chairman, MD. That's it for the nation. We move to the Daily Independent. Despite rising FX inflow, debt payment squeezes fiscal space. Despite rising FX inflows, debt payment squeezes fiscal space. To the next one. Finally, minister accused of certificate forgery resigns. Finally, minister accused of certificate forgery resigns. Up to the next. 98% of Nigerians will be exempted from pay in 2026, says Oyedele. 98% of Nigerians will be exempted from pay in 2026, says Oyedele. To the next headline. 2 out of every 3 Nigerian children suffers food poverty, says UNICEF. 2 out of every 3 Nigerian children suffers food poverty, says UNICEF. To the next one. Yakubu leaves as INEC chair, hands over to Agamuche Umbu. Yakubu leaves as INEC chair, hands over to Agamuche Umbu. Moving on to next. No going back on strike, ASU tells federal government. No going back on strike, ASU tells federal government. to next headline. Akpabio promises an open, accountable, responsive Senate. Akpabio promises an open, accountable, responsive Senate. Up to next. 2027. Failure is not an option. We must compete. Win, says ADC. Failure is not an option. We must compete. Win, says ADC. To the next headline. Nigerians' non-interest capital market hits 1.6 trillion naira. Nigerians' non-interest capital market hits 1.6 trillion naira. And that is for the Daily Independence. We move to the Guardian. Anxiety lingers over insecurity, fate of displaced persons. Anxiety lingers over insecurity, fate of displaced persons. To the next one. Senate seek 10 years passport ban for Nigerians convicted abroad. Senate seeks 10 years passport ban for Nigerians convicted abroad. Moving on to the next. New tax law exempts over 90% of Nigerians from pay, says Oyedele. New tax law exempts over 90% of Nigerians from pay, says Oyedele. To the next one. Alleged genocide. Congressman urged Trump to designate Nigeria country of particular concern. Alleged genocide. Congressman urged Trump to designate Nigeria country of particular concern. Up to next. NAERLS cost of food production roses by 36% in 2025. NAERLS cost of food production roses by 36% in 2025. To the next headline. Habaz, Abia lawmaker clash over Nnamdi Kanu's health condition. Habaz, Abia lawmaker clash over Nnamdi Kanu's health condition. Up to next. Natasha returns to Senate after 6 months suspension. Natasha returns to Senate after 6 months suspension. To the next one. Power generation. Offtake dropped by 5% at Discos, loses 158 billion naira. Power generation. Offtake dropped by 5% as Discos, loses 158 billion naira. To the next one. 2027. Tinubu shared political garbage as embattled minister Nja resigns. 2027. Tinubu shared political baggage as embattled minister Nanji resigns. And that's it for our newspaper review segment. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more news and updates on Global Entertainment News TV, once again, I've been your host, Busola, and have a wonderful day. Bye.